Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chouinard. I'm here with Glenn Willis and Tyler Jones, and we're recording right after the Hawks' overtime win over the Los Angeles Lakers, and that was a trip. I don't even know where to begin. I'm a little bit punch drunk from trying to
Y-
follow that and do social media and do the post game.
Uh,
Maybe we start with Glenn handing Tyler the DeAndre Hunter apology form.
No, it's Tyler can represent his own views however he wants, but DeAndre Hunter is definitely on quite the run right now. And I think true Hawks fans are burning incense and doing whatever stuff Kyrie does to kind of, all this, try to keep that knee healthy because I mean it's making a big difference in games right now. And so we want to keep him on the court. We want to keep him playing the way he is playing right now. um, but for me, like before I hand it over to Ty, like coaching ecosystem matters. It
yes.
really matters. And for guys who are role players and who have some limitations in their game, steering them towards their strengths really matters. And I think that's what we're seeing with DeAndre Hunter. We've talked about in the past the ball handling issues, not seeing a double coming, being a second half late on the all the things we all saw that, right? And we're not going to pretend we didn't, but he is on time and in rhythm with his reads right now. And for me, the ecosystem is a really big part of that. I mean, credit to him for working hard and adding to his game and all that sort of stuff. But for me, coaching ecosystem infrastructure, organizational infrastructure matters, and that's what I feel like I'm watching.
I mean, offensively, he was playing the wrong position, I think we could say, in certain spots. Like, um, Nate McMillan had him as a Carmelo Anthony type of at the mid to high post ISO player, and like that was never like he was okay at it. That wasn't a strength of his game. Like when DeAndre Hunter was a rookie, the best like and he had a tough rookie year. Something me and Kevin talked about way back at the beginning of this podcast. Um, was DeAndre Hunter's struggles, and but the one thing we often talked about was that he had great shot prep. Like he was a great catch and shoot player. Like he could set screens and fade to the fade to the open spot and like consistently his footwork was always consistent. It was always good. And for whatever reason, the offense kind of just went away from his strengths into stuff that he wasn't as good at. It was just like, all right, we're gonna give DeAndre Hunter the ball, mismatch ISO situations. It but without regards to the relative spacing on the floor. Like the biggest difference in his game is has been he's just in better he's just constantly being put in situation places to succeed. He's not asked to be this initiator, ball handler, creator. He's asked to be a play finisher. And I think my biggest takeaway is like the Hawks are treating DeAndre Hunter like he's Laurie Market, where he sets screens, he fades to the open areas of the floor behind the 3 point line, or he dives to the rim, which he's been good at all season. Where it's like, okay, I'm setting the screen for Trae's man. If I get the switch, I'm the bigger player, and I can take that man downhill, with an advantage. And so like and it's we're not we're not asking DeAndre to do too much. Now, beyond that, what's happened is that he's also more confident. Like he's flat out a much more confident player. Against the Bucks, he had a between the legs pull up 3 pointer at the top of the key, and he like drained it like it was nothing. He comes sometimes he like sometimes he'll shoot like fadeaway 3 pointers. I'm like this like he is on a roll here, and like tonight kind of exemplified it. One of the biggest plays of the game was DeAndre Hunter sticking up for himself because LeBron James game, the entire game was throwing his weight around and being allowed to do so without repercussions from the officials. where he was just allowed to be ultra physical, while on the other hand, you couldn't fight him back or you get blown for a whistle. And that's where the frustration was coming with the Hawks. The Hawks were super frustrated the entire game. So towards the end of the game, DeAndre Hunter, he's being held. DeAndre looks at the refs. Refs don't call it. LeBron does it again, and DeAndre just falls down. And they forces them to call the foul. They call the foul. LeBron tries to step over him, say something, and DeAndre gets back up. He's like, "No, no, no! You're not about to little brother me. You're not about to punk me. Like, no, I'm bold. I've been hooping, and like, I demand respect here. You're not. I just like I have visions of where the Heat. I just like you compare this to what he was doing during the Miami Heat series in the playoffs a couple years ago, where oftentimes Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler were just punking him, and he wasn't fighting back. LeBron tried to do the same thing, and look, and DeAndre was getting after, talking smack the entire game. He was talking smack to LeBron James the entire game, and I'm like, you know what? This this level of emotion from DeAndre Hunter just hasn't been something that's been there. And I think it's brought out like an additional. It's not like he didn't play hard or wasn't competitive, but like I feel like him being more animated, him being more juiced up, one, it gets his teammates going because they're not used to seeing this, at least on the in the NBA floor. But it's also like I think it's helped him kind of come into his own as a basketball player. Like it, during the 6 game streak, like flat out, he's been the difference. Like he comes in the game, he settles the offense when he's in alongside Bogey, and then defensively he's been solid. Like it helps that you have somebody like Dyson Daniels, um, you know, and all the defensive talent the Hawks have now as well. But like DeAndre, like full stop, DeAndre's been incredible, and it's to the point where not only is it a positive value contract now, like I mean he keeps this up. The Hawks not only the Hawks aren't going to trade him. They're going to keep him through the lifetime of this contract. He's been that good. This is somebody the Hawks were willing to give away for like relatively cheap, just like maybe 2 months ago. And like now the Hawks are like, this this is this is something of real value in this league, and we're not gonna. He's playing himself back into being a core piece for this
All right, I've got like so many random incoherent thoughts here. Um, they're not connected, but one you mentioned that play where he got into it with LeBron. He drew 3 fouls on one trip down the floor, and they were in the bonus like that because he did, he really didn't wilt from that moment. He kept playing aggressively through that, and that that the fact that they got in the bonus had value for them right away. So it was like it was mathematically and logistically like important too. You mentioned Nate McMillan. I got to see Nate McMillan tonight. What a lovely man. It was good to say hi to him. And it was weird. Talked about very weird. A lot of moments in the game with Andre Hunter and Cam Reddish guarding each other. Okay. There were a lot of moments in this game where Hunter and Cam Reddish were guarding each other.
Yeah.
And it was very, they used to be like two peas in a pod following each other around everywhere. And, Reddish hasn't necessarily, uh, you know, elevated above those limitations in the way that DeAndre Hunter has. And, when I think it was Max Christie fouled out and Cam Reddish came in, they had Reddish setting screens for LeBron. And it's like, please, in the name of God, blitz that. They don't want to give Reddish the ball, try to make a decision on the move 20 feet from the basket, but they just kind of switched. But that
Well,
was one
I
thing that
mean,
upset me about this game.
but let me ask both of you. I thought maybe the biggest adjustment in the game was coming out in the second half and Dyson on LeBron. Those passes to AD, pressuring the ball. Like LeBron was uncomfortable. Everyone's uncomfortable dribbling around Dyson.
Yeah, he didn't want to
Like, I
dribble.
mean, okay, we don't have anyone big enough to contain or skilled enough or whatever you want to say to contain, you know, you know, Anthony Davis like diving to the rim and getting. I mean, he's so skilled. okay, let's just pressure the ball handler, So to me, I thought, and it took a while in the third quarter for all of that to kind of work itself out. I
Jalen
thought that
Jalen had to
adjustment
be in
was
foul trouble
massive.
first. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Jalen's foul trouble. And to me, like I was a little bit disappointed with the way that the first half played out because Dyson's talents were being wasted. Like
Yep.
using him to guard a Lakers guard is like hindering your offense and not really elevating your defense. And to me, it's like play Bogey more. Because it's not a big penalty to have him out there guarding Lakers guards and that would elevate the offense. And then it switched around. Like when you needed him to guard LeBron, suddenly there was value there. There was still, certainly plenty of minutes to play Bogey. Um, and you just needed those minutes because Jalen wasn't out there. But I thought they could have used Bogey a lot more than take 4 minutes away from Dyson and give him the Bogey. I thought that would have been a prudent decision in the first half.
Yeah, if Quinn could go back, he would probably just have Dyson guard LeBron the entire game. Uh, and then, or like if he wants to give him a break, have Jalen guard him in stretches to get Bogey out there on the floor more, which is ultimately what ended up happening in the second half, where you got Jalen, even though he was a +7, he was good. Like, I'm not saying Jalen was bad. His decision making was bad, however, and he was putting the Hawks in bad positions with his turnover. And so, like, even though the Hawks were smaller and they were struggling to get defensive rebounds, like they fought back into the game by getting Bogey on the floor alongside Dyson. And now all of a sudden you get the best of both worlds. You get Dyson's point of attack defense, you get Bogey spacing from the 3-point line, and you got Trae in a rhythm. This allowed for Trae to get into an offensive flow, an offensive rhythm the way he hasn't had been able to during this winning streak. And like it snowballed. And so like it's good. Like to me, I think what's bigger than just the individual game is just that Quinn knows he has more outs. Like because I did think if if like Dyson couldn't hold up guarding LeBron, I think he was going to go with Bogey to close the game. But Dyson was doing so well guarding LeBron James, where he's like, nah, he's got to be out. He's got to be the one guy to guard LeBron, or we're not going to be able to stop LeBron James. Because by the way, we haven't talked about it. Granted, I wasn't happy with how LeBron was doing it, but he had an incredible game. Like just one of his classics. Like and for him to be able to still put this out there, him and AD were playing at like all NBA MVP levels, but I, it was just so impressive that the Hawks just have so many different avenues for success now with their deep bench, with all these guys who are contributing, who are playing their role. I mean, like V Krejci just
Well, I wanted to ask Glenn about that. Like, why did Veet play in this game, and how did he do?
So my viewpoint is that the Lakers basically play an inverted offense, right? LeBron and AD start on the perimeter. So what are you going to do with Kobe? Like that extra length that V has, I think was helpful. At least conceptually. I don't know that it really manifested in the way that maybe Quinn and the coaching staff thought, but I thought this was the wrong game for Kobe. I thought the Lakers would have really gone at him. And I've talked about before, like the Lakers are really good at putting your smaller defenders in a bad spot. Like I have to say it, in a lot of their phases of play, they are lazy as hell. They are really lazy, right? I will say too, JJ Redick, I think is going to be a really good coach in the league. I think he's going to be a really good coach. They have no guard, like when I mean Austin Reeves is. I mean they had no guard capability, and they still JJ Redick made it very hard for the Hawks defense to attack the Lakers guards creation. You know, and which is what every defense should be trying to do against the Lakers is trying to force their guards to make plays. But they make it very hard because they initiate with AD, they initiate with LeBron, all that sort of stuff. So I thought it was very smart to not use Kobe in
yeah
this game, in that sense. But that's what kept it, and that's what kept it close. I, LeBron made ridiculous shots tonight. Like you could, I mean, I will. If you don't watch the Lakers play normally, go watch the next. 5 games the Lakers play. LeBron's not going to make the shots he made tonight.
No.
He's not. I in my head I'm like he lived in like he did 20 ice baths since the last game in Miami, and he's doing cryotherapy, and I mean he's so committed to his body. We all know, like everyone knows that he's so committed to his body. But for me, I just thought that like they just wanted length on the floor and didn't feel and I feel like the Lakers inverted offense meant get longer, you know, better help defenders on the floor, and Kobe's just less experienced in that way.
And I think another factor, um, is not that Kobe was playing poorly to me, but one thing I didn't like was Kobe's refusal to take jump shots, where it felt like Grant, like I like the drives, I like the forcefulness that he was playing with, getting downhill, getting the offense going that way, getting 2 feet into the paint. But like Kobe has a good jump, but it just felt like he didn't have the confidence in it. And so like I didn't mind going with Vit Krejci just because he's the bigger player defensively. And then also offensively, Vit uh like he's just bigger. And like so it's easier for him to finish at the rim. Kobe had a couple struggles against the Bucks finishing. I'm pretty sure you guys talked about that where it felt like Brooke was kind of baiting him to these drives, to these finishes, and Kobe wasn't reading properly. Vit Krejci's just a little bit more experienced, a little bit more game sense, and he's also just bigger where that won't work as well against him. So like it's just a couple of factors, but I mean Vit played really well. Like as I thought defensively he was his good self. Uh, that he's kind of showed, and like I wouldn't mind if he got some run instead of Kobe for a couple stretches. Not saying they don't go back to Kobe here, but honestly, it might behoove Quinn to get both of them out there just so that because like Beats are like a legitimate player in this league. It doesn't have to be for extended stretches, but I think looking at what Steve Kerr does for his rotations, I think is a example of what Quinn could maybe do to get get somebody like V into the game because there's gonna be another injury and they're gonna need V Krejci. So it's gonna be imperative that he stays in a positive rhythm because they're going to need
It might be something where, they just roll with it for a week. Like Denver might be the kind of matchup where
Yeah,
you're
agree,
you're
totally
not as
agree.
focused on the point of attack. Like they're going to play through Jokic. Like his defense becomes a little bit less valuable than it might ordinarily be. And so it may be something where they looked at the schedule and said, okay, this is going to be your time to shine for this 2 games, 4 games, whatever. But
Yeah, Kevin, I always like to ask this in the building. Did you see something we don't see on TV? Was there one thing, two things that just kind of jumped out at you as a real dynamic that, we're limited by what the TV shows us, and the TV broadcast is great, right? I put on Twitter like Bob Rathman was amazing down the stretch. His calls were amazing down the stretch, right? He was so good tonight. But in the building, is there something you saw that maybe we couldn't see on TV that you felt like really was a factor?
it's hard because when I'm looking at the game, I'm not looking at the TV, so I don't know exactly, what the comparison is. I did kind of watch sort of the whole DeAndre Hunter kerfuffle, and it was kind of funny because it seemed like a lot of Lakers got in there with LeBron really fast, and there weren't as many Hawks, and I was like, you'd like to see a couple more bodies jump in there, but it was kind of funny seeing Trae. Trae was really the one between Hunter and the Lakers pack, and it was like, okay, Trae, that's spirited. I don't know if that made it to the camera or not, but I was at that point I wasn't looking at the screen. I was just kind of trying to track bodies because I know at times sometimes
Dy-
they'll
Dyson.
replay it.
I don't know if you saw, but Dyson was right there too.
Yeah.
Like he immediately went to LeBron. Like I was like the first thing he did because like that's kind of what Dyson does. Like when there's kerfuffles, like he's always right there because probably because somebody's mad at him, so he's used to it. But
I think they're
nah, he
allowed to
was there
fight in
too.
Australia a little more than we are in the US or something.
But I also imagine Dyson being the super diplomatic person, like, guys, we don't have to do this, But I mean, who knows what's really being said down there? But that's my yeah. I've done some work in Australia, and maybe I'm extrapolating too much from that. But well, I always laugh when Dyson's in the middle.
we got to talk to Zachary this morning, and he game like this, he's asked the typical question of well, what is it going to be like to play against LeBron? And he pretty matter of factly was like, hey, this is pretty cool, but also I have a job to do and I got to go play basketball tonight. And I thought this was a very calm and mature game from him. He never seemed rushed in what he was doing. Is that fair to say?
I think yes. I mean, it's interesting because I mean, I thought the officiating was not great tonight. I thought the Hawks like worked to just kind of next play, next play, next play, next play. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. And I this is a totally nerdy thing, but I always go and look at like the who are the three officials working the game tonight. And I looked at it tonight and I was like, middle of the road. I mean, I try not to be too hard, and think there are some really bad crews sometimes, but the reality is when LeBron shows up, there is a factor. I mean, I shouldn't just say LeBron. Superstars show up, like all-time greats show up. There's an impact, and less experienced officiating crews are going to be impacted by that. And I thought that was a thing the whole way tonight. And that's never going to not be a thing in the NBA, I don't think, in my lifetime, right? And so for me, for the Hawks just to stay focused and work through and work through and work through and work through, I thought they deserve a lot of credit for that. There are a lot of I don't I try not to be too hard on officials, but there were like I don't know 4 or 5 calls tonight that were just like. But then you're like you zoom out and you try to remember like LeBron James is playing this game. Like
Yep.
that's a thing. It will always be a thing. And it's not necessarily Giannis gets that treatment too, right? And it's not Giannis's fault that the officials react this way. It's not LeBron's fault, in my view, the officials react this way. That's the sort of the fabric of the DNA, and that superstars get a treatment that maybe some other guys don't. And you have to when you're the team that doesn't have that, maybe you have to work through it. And I thought the Hawks did a great job tonight of working through it.
Yeah, there were so early in the game on Blue Sky, uh, I because you just see you're just watching how game flow is going and how LeBron was just like I said earlier was just literally just throwing his weight around and being allowed to do it without the opposite side being allowed to fight back essentially without a whistle being blown. So they had to always take the contact and like LeBron's the biggest player on the floor and he's just bouncing dudes off and I'm like okay, but for him to get there he's literally fouling. But okay, but and so what one of the things I said on Blue Sky was like Trae's gonna have to go into full grift mode to combat this. And he didn't do that because in part because the refs just refuse to call fouls when he drives for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that. But like uh but instead what they needed from Trae was a all-star superstar level performance to combat this. Because like it there's like they were going to need the 30 footers. They were going to need Trae to basically be the alpha and the omega of the offense, like not take the back seat that he had been to Jalen. Like, especially when Jalen was in foul trouble, Trae was like, okay, I gotta take these pull up 3 pointers. I gotta get to the rim, I gotta finish. And he did that the entire like for the really the second half onwards, where it was like, okay, it's my time. I gotta pick this up because the match, like the shot making from LeBron and like AD's finishing around the rim, it most teams like if you don't have that level of talent, like level of superstar player, like you're just gonna lose. Like you can play well. Like the Hawks could play well. Like if Trae were a lesser player, the Hawks would have played well and still lost, and we would have been like clapping. But because Trae is that level of talent in this league, like these are the type of games that separate the good players from the superstars. Where it's like, okay, for us to win this game, Trae, you got to go out there and have one of the best performances in Atlanta Hawk history. And he did that. 30, 21 assists, only 3 turnovers. I think he had like 2 steals or something. Absolutely incredible. Defensively, one of the things is he was not going to let Max Christie or dribble. Like he was not going to allow that to happen. And he was pressuring Max Christie the entire game when he was on the point guard for the Hawks, not D'Angelo Russell, because he's been excised to the bench. But I don't know why I'm blanking on his
Is
name.
it?
Like he was pressuring the opposing Lakers point guard like he was like Daniels, like full court. I'm going to make it as hard as I can on these guys because because the Lakers did a great job of involving Trae a lot in the action, getting the Hawks in a disadvantaged situation. But like as the game went on and on, like the Hawks got better at better, and Trae got better and better at. Okay, this is what they're trying to do. I'm not going to let them do that. Like I, one of the things I don't know if anybody's talked about, like his screen navigation the entire game was incredible. He was not going to let these guys screen him all. Like he fought through the screens. He got skinny. He was using his quickness. Like he was disrupting the timing of the screener. I'm like, who is this guy? And then that was on defense. In the last play of the game, he sets the like it's basically off ball trade where he gets the ball up to DeAndre Hunter after the screen. Then he goes to fake set a screen, which like causes everybody to be confused, and he flashes to the 3 point line and gets an open 3 pointer. Like that's what the Hawks. This is what the Hawks need, and like the screen setting from him is something he's been doing the last couple of games too. And so like now it's so great that he got the shots to go down because like I mean this is the type of player that can lead a team to a title. And like he's
Yeah,
done
and
this. He's done this for his career. And so, but what's added is this defense, and so like it was just good to see like Trae remind people like what an elite talent he is in this league.
yeah. Interesting. No 4-1 screens tonight. Like 80 and LeBron shut that. Like we're not doing that, right? But that play with Hunter, like the 3-pointer, gave it up, and two defenders went at Hunter, and he found the perfect spacing and the perfect like he didn't get too far from Hunter. He that I mean it was just his feel for where to float out for that shot was incredible. Well, I mean, I know if you watch the play, it's like oh, it's just like no, like him making himself available to Hunter for that outlet pass and him knocking that shot down. That I mean, you look back to 2 years ago, 3 years ago, like give it up, get it back, give it up, get it back, give it up, get it back. That's
I
nuanced
mean,
stuff.
to Trae to trust his teammates to do that, where it's like it's the
Yes,
right play because
yes.
Hunter got double like, and Hunter deserved to be double. If he didn't flash the Hunter, he was going to get an open 3 pointer, and Hunter's been cooking. And so, like, for DeAndre Hunter to make the quick decision, like, oh, I got two on me, get the ball out my hands. And
Yeah,
and there might be some part of that where Trae's been doing this for a lot of this 6 game losing streak where he gives it up immediately when he's trapped or doubled. Like he just gets the ball out of his hands. And so like I wonder, you know, if there's a level of it's just what you do on this Hawks team in the Hawks system. If you get two to the ball, you pass it. And so like I think that's a real difference, and it showed up in that last play because like that's not a play Hunter makes. Like that's an intuitive play. He makes it now. That's not something you would expect Hunter to make 2 years ago or even last season.
yep, yeah. Just the catch, the read, the recognition, that's new stuff. And like, man, I honestly like just want to love on Hunter for like just great job seeing it, making the processing it, seeing it. That was the game. I mean, his read, his decision, his recognition. That was the game. And I mean, and Trey knocked it down. I mean, that's obviously huge too.
Um, yeah, I'm tapped out. You got anything else? Eddie, would you want to talk about the Denver game coming up?
I mean, like I said last time, it's gonna be tough. Lots of points off turnovers. Hawks struggle there. Maybe getting better. You know, top five at the 3 point line percentage wise. That's tough. So they're gonna have to work really, really, really hard to this is a game where mistakes will cost you. Hawks mistakes will cost them. And so in terms of what I'm looking for outcome is the Hawks minimizing mistakes, facing guys off the 3-point line, and rotating and working hard. But on paper, the statistical profile is a rough matchup for the Hawks in terms of what they have done across the whole season. Now, more recently, are they doing better? Trae was awesome tonight taking care of the ball. You know, so it's a thing where I just wonder like how much of is are we looking at 4 week trends, 3 week trends, 2 week trends, et cetera. But on paper, this is a tough statistical kind of profile for the Hawks to engage.
Any thoughts on Denver, or really take it wherever you want, Tyler?
Well, Denver, like it's going to be big Jalen game, particularly on defense because Nikola Jokic.
And I would just add that Jalen, I think he's a little bit dinged up right now.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, he was wearing kind of a wrap, I think, during the game on his right shoulder, so something to
Yeah,
keep an eye on.
from not getting foul calls, I get it, but like it's going to be a big game for Jalen in particular because Jokic is going to pull his man out beyond the 3-point line, and like he's going to require all of Capella's attention. So there's not going to be any rim protection back there. It's going to be important that they don't give up dribble penetration, but also if they do, Jalen's got to be the low man. He's got to be he's got to be big and physical and contest shots at the rim and help out where he can because he's probably going to guard a non-shooter. So it's going to be really important for him to have a good game. But I think it's a good matchup for the Hawks in this sense. The Nuggets, Jokic is a fine rim protector, but he's not a like elite one. He's better than what people think, but the Hawks can take advantage of the Nuggets in the paint, which is their strength on offense. Uh, they, you know, Christian Brown or Christian Brown's he's a good defender, but not somebody Trae's going to be too worried about. Or and they have and like I think the Nuggets got a lot of weak defenders in their rotation. Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray in particular, where the Hawks can really take advantage of 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 them defensively on the other side of the floor. So I think it's actually going to be it's going to be another good game. But I think with how well the Hawks are playing, like they're probably going to be favored in the betting market just because of they're playing incredible basketball, and also I do think they match up pretty well with the Nuggets.
They'll have a rest advantage too because Denver plays in Washington tomorrow night before they come on pretty short rest, like less than 24 hours between games for the game here. So yeah,
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
yeah. I have a soft spot in my heart for Jamal Murray. So but he's not physically what he was 2 years ago. For sure. And I love what Mike Malone does with Denver is one of my favorite league pass teams to watch. I think the thing that is sneaky, if you don't watch Denver all the time, Jokic, very physical,
Oh yeah,
really, really physical. Tonight, like in the first half, the major issue for the Hawks was dealing with the physicality of LeBron and AD. And so for me, I feel like a little bit of that challenge translates to Denver. And Jokic is super physical, and a lot of the trajectory of the game, I think, comes down to how they deal with his physicality. I don't know that Denver has anyone else that has that type of physical. Murray will be physical sometimes.
Aaron Gordon,
Yeah, yeah,
especially in
great,
the
great
dunker
point.
spot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it will be another very physical game. The Hawks can be undersized in some lineups, like they were against the Lakers tonight. And dealing with that physicality, I think, will be a major factor in who wins that game.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you. We did not plan this out. This was more of a hey, this game is way too hectic and crazy not to do sort of an instant reaction pod. So we
Yeah,
did this on the fly. If you hear beeping and trucks and Zambonis, it's because I'm like in some open room in the arena. But try to make it work as best we can. And I appreciate everybody who listens, and I appreciate Glenn and Tyler for joining me on very short notice. Thanks, guys. And good night,
Yeah.
Bob.
All right, Bob.
Good night, Bob.